He had the smile of a leading man and the appetite of a rock star. Warren Beatty, Oscar-winning director, legendary actor, political activist, and the very embodiment of old Hollywood cool, was a man who seduced a generation not just with his roles, but with his mystique. Yet beneath the tuxedos, the golden statues, and the red carpet kisses lies a story rarely told in full. Because Beatty wasn't just another Hollywood heartthrob. He was the storm behind the calm, the scandal under the success, the heartbreak wrapped in charm. This is not just a tale of affairs and ambition. It's a portrait of a man who defied everything, but couldn't escape himself. Before the legend, there was just Warren. Born in Richmond, Virginia in 1937, Beatty was not a product of Tinseltown royalty. His father, Ira Owens Beatty, was a school principal, and his mother, Kathleen Corinne, a drama teacher. Ordinary folk with extraordinary children. His older sister, Shirley MacLaine, would one day become a movie star and spiritual icon in her own right. But at home, Warren was the quiet one, the observer. While Shirley shined in ballet recitals and school plays, Warren buried himself in books. Yet by high school, the bookworm transformed into a football star with matinee idol looks. Still, the stage kept calling. He enrolled at Northwestern University to study liberal arts, but the pull of the screen was stronger than any syllabus. Much to his parents' horror, he dropped out and moved to New York City to train under Stella Adler, the legendary acting coach who also mentored Marlon Brando. The transformation was complete. Warren Beatty was headed for the spotlight. Beatty's climb was fast and chaotic. In his early 20s, he landed small television gigs and theater roles, but his breakthrough came when he received a Tony nomination for his work on Broadway. The buzz was electric. At just 22, he was invited to Hollywood for a screen test. Stardom was no longer a dream. It was knocking at his door. But he wasn't just focused on scripts and cameras. Beatty had another pursuit: pleasure. And his initiation into Hollywood's inner circles came through a string of parties, whispered flirtations, and a chance meeting with Joan Collins. She was 4 years older, already a starlet with a reputation. He was bold, handsome, and hungry. They collided like a match and gasoline. Collins would later reveal in her memoirs that Beatty's libido was not just intense, it was relentless. "I couldn't keep up," she confessed. But it wasn't just his stamina that troubled her, it was his secrets. And she would learn soon enough. Beatty's scandals weren't whispered behind closed doors. They played out in the open. His first major film was a risky one, Splendor in the Grass, 1961, opposite the luminous Natalie Wood. Wood was a former child star looking for a role that would redefine her image. Beatty was a newcomer trying to prove he belonged. But while the cameras rolled, something deeper played out off-screen. Though still with Joan Collins, Beatty found himself drawn to Wood. She was vulnerable, recently married, and struggling with her own insecurities. As the two performed scenes of young, tortured love under the direction of Elia Kazan, rumors erupted. The embraces weren't just acting. Joan Collins rushed back from Europe after hearing of Beatty's alleged intimacy with Wood. She confronted him. He proposed. She left with a ring on her finger, but not with peace of mind. Not long after, Beatty began filming opposite screen legend Vivien Leigh. Tabloids jumped on it, reporting yet another on-set affair. But the real twist? He was actually having a fling with a young actress named Susan Strasberg, and still pining for Natalie Wood. When Wood hit a low point while filming West Side Story, Beatty called her. Soon, they were appearing at parties together again. Her marriage to Robert Wagner crumbled. Collins, fed up, threw Beatty out of their apartment. He moved in with Wood. The press was relentless. Their love, real or not, became Hollywood's favorite open secret. But just when it seemed Beatty had settled, he vanished, literally. Disappeared for a week. When he reappeared at Wood's door, she slammed it in his face. The romance ended. The fallout didn't. Heartbroken or not, Warren Beatty wasn't one to wallow. After his breakup with Natalie Wood, he hit a career slump. The studios weren't biting. Critics were unimpressed. And his love life? A revolving door of affairs and missed chances. For most, it would have been the beginning of the end. For Beatty, it was just intermission. Enter François Truffaut, the French New Wave icon, who passed along a script about two Depression-era outlaws. The story? Bonnie and Clyde. Beatty was instantly obsessed, but instead of just starring in it, he wanted more. He wanted control. So he marched into the office of Jack Warner, one of the old titans of Hollywood. Warner hated the script, called it violent, vulgar, doomed to flop. Beatty? He didn't care. He famously got down on his knees and kissed Warner's shoes. It was part performance, part desperation. Whatever it was, it worked. Warner agreed. At just 29, Beatty became not only the star of the film but also its producer. That decision would change the course of his career and Hollywood forever. He also made a vow with co-star Faye Dunaway: no romance. Surprisingly, for once, he stuck to it. The focus was on the work, and the work paid off. Bonnie and Clyde wasn't just a hit, it was a revolution. A new wave of cinema was born, and Beatty was at its helm. If Warren Beatty had a soulmate, many thought it was Julie Christie. British, brilliant, fiercely independent. She wasn't one to fall easily. But when she met Beatty, sparks ignited. They were intellectual equals, artistic powerhouses, and magnets for paparazzi. But what made their relationship most fascinating was its openness. The two agreed on a kind of emotional truce. Fidelity wasn't a deal breaker. And yet, there were still fractures. Christie was quiet, reflective, grounded. Beatty was chaos wrapped in charm. She'd always preferred monogamy. He, on the other hand, was known for juggling more hearts than scripts. Over time, the romance frayed, even as they stayed connected. That connection bled into their art. When Beatty began working on Shampoo, a film about a womanizing Beverly Hills hairdresser, he insisted Christie co-star. Audiences adored their chemistry, but behind the scenes, their emotional connection had cooled. They were exes playing lovers, their off-screen goodbye masked by on-screen heat. If Beatty's life was a tabloid headline, this chapter would read like a soap opera. After Julie Christie came Michelle Phillips, singer of the Mamas and the Papas, and a woman every bit as iconic as the music of her era. Beatty promised her the world, marriage, children, forever. But by then, Hollywood already knew his promises often expired before breakfast. The relationship ended in heartbreak. Phillips later revealed it took her 2 years of therapy to realize those dreams he sold her were empty. Then came Diane Keaton, fresh off a complicated, neurotic breakup with Woody Allen. Beatty cast her in Reds, his magnum opus, a sweeping epic about the life of leftist journalist John Reed. The two began a passionate affair, but on set, Beatty became something else entirely. He was no longer the lover, he was the tyrant, demanding up to 80 takes for a single scene. When one actress finally snapped at him, the entire crew applauded. That's how much tension swirled behind the lens. But Beatty wasn't just a hard-nosed perfectionist. He was a true believer. While filming scenes in Spain, he lectured local extras about workers' rights, turning the set into a seminar. The result? The extras walked off. They refused to return until their wages improved. Beatty, in an uncharacteristic moment of humility, agreed. "I realized I had created a monster," he later said of the film. But Reds paid off. It won him an Oscar for Best Director in 1981. It also won him a reputation as a brilliant yet impossible man. The 1980s saw Warren Beatty re-enter the spotlight with his usual mix of ambition and allure. But this time, he wasn't chasing ingenues. He was locking eyes with icons. One of the most explosive flings of his career came during the filming of Dick Tracy in 1990. His co-star? The one and only Madonna. The chemistry was radioactive, too hot for the press to ignore. The tabloids devoured them, the aging Hollywood legend and the material girl at the peak of her fame. The affair burned fast and bright, then fizzled under the weight of two egos too large for one bed. But not every story ended in tabloid spectacle. Some ended in silence. One of the most haunting chapters in Beatty's past involves Natalie Wood, his former flame, the woman he could never quite let go of. Years after their breakup, Beatty approached Wood again, hoping she'd play Bonnie in Bonnie and Clyde. She broke down, told him she couldn't handle the idea of acting, especially with him. That very night, she attempted to take her own life. She didn't act again for 3 years. And tragically, that phone call would be the last time they ever spoke. Another ghost in his life? Marilyn Monroe. Beatty, just 25 at the time, met her at a producer's party. They spent the evening talking, laughing, walking along the beach. He played piano for her under moonlight. It was, he later said, soulful, not romantic. But the next day, she was gone. Monroe died that night. Yet another woman Beatty could never forget. Joan Collins was more than just Beatty's early lover. She was a survivor of his chaos. And for decades, she carried a secret no one knew. Their relationship in the early 60s was torrid, passionate, obsessive, and brutally one-sided. While Beatty chased every opportunity, Collins tried to make the apartment they shared a home. But as her fame plateaued and his star ascended, she was left behind. Then came the pregnancy. In her memoir, Collins revealed she had once been pregnant with Beatty's child. But she was terrified of scandal, of professional ruin, of becoming a cautionary tale in an industry that disposed of women far faster than men. So she made a decision. She terminated the pregnancy. He never knew, or if he did, he never asked. Their breakup was final. She left, never looked back, and in doing so, became one of the few women to escape the gravitational pull of Beatty's orbit with her dignity intact. And then, everything changed. Annette Bening walked into the audition room for Bugsy like she owned it. Classy, cool, brilliant. Beatty saw her once, and that was enough. According to director Barry Levinson, Beatty picked up the phone and told him, "That's it. That's the woman I'm going to marry." No one believed him, not after decades of failed romances, broken hearts, and tabloid wreckage. But in 1992, he shocked the world. He married her. They had 4 children. And for the first time, Beatty stepped back from the camera, from the chaos, from himself. He became, in his words, a man trying to raise a good family in an impossible industry. The notorious playboy became a dad. He stayed out of the spotlight for nearly 2 decades, but the world kept moving. In 2006, Beatty's eldest child, Stephen Ira, came out as transgender. The news made headlines, but Beatty's response silenced every critic. He called Stephen a revolutionary, a genius, and my hero. It was one of the few times Beatty spoke from the heart publicly, and one of the most powerful. Warren Beatty never wrote a tell-all, never went on a media tour to clear his name, never joined the modern age of confession and redemption. He simply let the work, the whispers, and the wreckage speak for him. And maybe that's the most honest thing about him, because behind every headline was a man searching, through women, through art, through scandal, for something he couldn't name. He was brilliant. He was reckless. He was devoted to justice on screen, and yet a chaos agent in love. He played revolutionaries in his films, but left a trail of emotional revolutions in his wake. His art changed Hollywood. Bonnie and Clyde shattered censorship norms. Reds dared to portray leftist politics with empathy and scope during the Cold War. Shampoo predicted the moral emptiness of American excess. And through it all, Warren Beatty was always both in front of and behind the camera, pulling the strings, seducing the audience, and crafting his own myth. But myths don't come without casualties. Natalie Wood never recovered from their final call. Joan Collins never forgot the child she lost. Carrie Fisher, just 17, became one of the few to ever say no to him. Michelle Phillips took years to undo the fantasy he sold her. Diane Keaton nearly cracked under the pressure of perfectionism, and yet many of them still spoke of him with affection, even admiration. Because Warren Beatty wasn't a villain. He was a man. A flawed, magnetic, exhausting man who lived like the cameras were always rolling and the script was always changing. In a town built on illusions, Beatty made a career out of breaking them. He redefined what a leading man could be. He blurred the lines between artist and lover, between political force and tabloid fodder. His scandals were many, but so were his masterpieces. He went from the man every woman wanted to the man one woman finally got. And unlike his characters, Warren Beatty didn't go down in a blaze of bullets. He faded into a quiet home life, raising children and loving a wife who saw through the legend and chose the man. Even now, decades after his prime, the name Warren Beatty still draws a pause, a memory, a smirk, a sigh. Because some stars don't just burn bright, they burn messy. And they leave stories behind that are too human, too heartbreaking, and too cinematic to ever be forgotten. If you found this journey through the hidden corners of Warren Beatty's life as fascinating as we did, don't forget to give this story a like and subscribe to the channel. We've got more deep dives, scandals, and iconic legacies coming your way. Drop a comment below. Which star's untold story should we uncover next? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.